Back to Wild Speculations. I'm Daniel.
I'm Scott.
This week we talk about Critical Role Campaign 3, Episode 5, The Threat Between the Walls.
Yes.
Sounds like an Attack on Titan title.
Yeah. Open up right after, just continuation.
Exactly
of
where
the
we left
scene.
off, yeah.
Yeah, and we meet the Corsairs, and they're not good people. Good people don't ask for the names of people to hurt if you betray them.
True.
They are not good people. They may try to present themselves as good people, but, I could piss off the whole internet listing people throughout history that did that weren't good people.
That's fair, yeah. It seems like my assertion, leading question about them being akin to Antifa seems to be what Matt was going for. And yeah, Rose, I don't. That went down basically how I expected it to go. Matt didn't want that to devolve into combat.
Yeah.
And he wanted to present the players with a front of danger without triggering their combat response.
Yeah.
Because when he threatened to start taking fingers and stuff, when that was going on, it would have been more effective had they grappled somebody.
Yeah.
And splayed hands.
The threat of violence, of it devolving to a fight, I expected there to be more of it.
Yeah.
And almost immediately I was like, okay, there's no way this is going to go to combat.
Yeah.
It was very quickly squashed, the idea that violence is going to be more than hinted at.
Yeah. So a couple of interesting things that they didn't necessarily circle back around to in that scene.
Uh-huh.
Yash asked them, who sent you. Imogen says Duggar sent us.
Yeah.
And then 2 minutes later, Laudna says he murdered a friend of ours and smiled. And all I could think of in that moment was Ford and Bo. And Ford telling Bo, smile more.
But no, not like that. Yeah, I don't know that the code word was that they were bad people. I think it was more like they're asking too many questions. I think it was more of a suss them out than a take them out.
Yes and no. We come for the laughter, or came for the laughter.
Mm-hmm.
I think is the code for chuckle fucks asking questions.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that they need to be silenced or so.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And the reason I say that is because the code phrase he gives them at the end, we come to loosen the snare, is the code phrase for information for them.
Yeah.
So their phraseology does have meaning.
Oh yeah.
Which is why Matt was frustrated with himself that he didn't have it at hand and had to dig through stuff and finally had to go to what I'm assuming is a Google Doc or something.
Right. Yeah.
I also loved, well, maybe he had a good reason. And Fern going, oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, yeah, Ashley continues to pull those out. But for me, I really, and I talked to you about this before we started, but there was the code was exactly what I thought it was going to be. Suss these people out. Hey, people are asking questions. I really wanted it though to be the laughter to be a person, and Matt just be like reskinning all the anger, the laughter, the worry, just all the characters from Inside Out being movers and shakers in the underworld.
Disgust. And
yeah.
Fear, anger, disgust,
have a packet,
joy,
have a packet named Bing Bong. There was a small part of me that was hoping for that.
I was just thinking, if Sam wants to keep the same flavor, if Fresh Cut Grass dies, he could do the Pachyodon and come with the same subclass and everything.
That would be good.
One of the things that shocked me about the Collateral conversation was, first, Spooky Girl gets called out.
Yep.
Which is also interesting. He doesn't ask for any of their names. And they never give their names.
Right.
But he asks for people who are important to them. So that's one thing. But the big thing for me was when he asked Spooky Girl, and she basically says, well, I'm sort of in the same boat as him, meaning Dorian.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised we didn't get everyone I cared about is already dead.
Yeah.
Because that's got to be the truth.
Not necessarily. She cares about Imogen.
Yeah, but we've already established that the people in this room are not for Collateral.
Fresh Cut Grass was.
Again, they got away with that because nobody asked anyone's name.
For me, that conversation, the thing that I was like, was that a fuck you to Dariax and Opal?
Yeah, Rose. Yeah, a total Ashton IQ 1000 moment.
Yeah,
big brain.
That was Taliesin working his Talisonness.
Yeah, and yeah. Well, yes, Snoopy. It does suggest that they have reached outside the city, and they probably do.
Or they want the appearance of reach outside the city.
And that's the other side of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the big thing that really sort of shocked me is that Orem, this is the first time Orem has had a chance to protect somebody, protect the group in some way, and hasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Collateral he could have given was Keyleth.
Yeah.
Just as a fuck you, I dare you.
Yeah. Go after the level 40 druid with an entire tribe of elementals.
Yeah. Go after the member of Vox Machina that beat all of them in every battle royale that they ever did. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's no leader, he says, and when the group pushed against that and suggested, "You're kind of the leader right now," he addressed his statement to the room, to his allies. "I am not taking a leadership position." So they have a real dislike of authority.
Yeah.
And authority structures, figures. So to me, they smack of anarchism.
To me, it's smacked of Caleb and Ford. I'm not the leader, but hey, do what I say. Because he does turn around and be like, "Hey, don't ask those questions just yet."
Yeah.
And kind of,
Yeah.
Rose, as far as Laura, I don't know. There's a part of me that was surprised, but there's a part of me that thinks, yeah, like, it's totally. I don't think Imogen is as innocent and naive as she comes off. Because I don't think Laura is going to play that bit up 2 campaigns in a row.
That's fair.
I mean, it could very well be that her father's a piece of shit and she doesn't give a because that's what I would do. I'd have said one of the people I dislike and yeah, go fuck them up if I betray you.
Which is also why Ashton's question: how much do I have to like this person?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Imogen's response to giving her father twofold. One, showed her faith in her assertion and her belief that these are the good guys. And
which she's wrong about.
And 2, because if somebody didn't offer something,
yeah,
things are going to go bad real quick.
The other idea is that her dad is dead. They didn't say a living person you care about.
Also true. Which also begs the question why Laudna didn't offer somebody who's dead.
Yeah. I mean, they left it really open to be screwed over by the answers, such as naming Frederick Grass, naming someone who's dead, naming someone who they don't like, because they don't ask.
Yeah.
They ask their name, where they're from. Imogen offered up the third piece of information that it was her dad.
That's true.
Ashton didn't offer up that Fresh Cut Grass was the robot standing next to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't question, who is he to you? Is he your neighbor? Is he your roommate?
Yeah.
So they left themselves wide open to that, which leads me to believe, and while I still don't think they're good, that was an empty threat. Make them think we have this.
Without having any intention of ever going through with
right, which includes, they may not be having reach outside the city. Yeah, we'll take that name. We can reach them.
That's fair. And also, we talked about how the broomstone was going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
And he was definitely unnerved by that news.
Yeah.
As he put it, that's too much heat. That's heat we don't want. Because as you're alluding to, that leads to shit outside the city.
Yep.
Coming in after them. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's that point, but I don't know.
And Ashton, being the most professional of them, arguably, says, we're for hire if you want to hire us.
Yeah.
Which led to, who do you work for again?
Mm-hmm.
And them going round and round about giving up Estros's name. And
And that's the other thing. If Estros is the good guy, and they're offering to be hired by the Corsairs too, then that gives you the dichotomy of who do we work with, the law or the criminal.
Well, Estros wants to back them, or wants to find out if there's people he could back.
Yeah.
So, and Ashton's cautionary words about, look, some of you have made judgment calls on this dude. All I'm saying is, I think they were premature. And I think that extends also to the Corsairs.
Yeah.
For him. I liked Fresh Cut Grass mentioning, you know, how they were much more organized when Bertrand was around.
Yeah.
And I had a flash of Travis's funeral and them saying that about him. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Okay.
It's just
okay.
Yeah, there was just I had a lot of moments when they were talking about Bertrand in that segment that I was like, you could say that about Travis. You could say that about Travis. And it just sort of hit me that Travis is in the green room essentially watching his friends talk about him being dead. In a roundabout way.
Yeah,
and
I can see that. I don't know if you've seen the little video clip where the person, and they're supposed to be the parent coming to see the teacher, and they're like, wait, my kid had drugs. Did you say where he got it from? And the teacher's like, oh, he said his best friend. He said that? I mean, did he give a name, though? Because he got it from the parents. That's what I saw when Freshman Grass was like, oh, you mean that?
Nice.
But one thing I noted in that whole kind of beginning half of the thing is, and tying it back to earlier episodes, Taliesin, I think Ashton has memory damage.
Yeah.
The wound, I'm taking notes, but this campaign, but it could be intentionally mistaken to how he perceives things. The fact that he's always asking, do I know this person? Have I screwed up with them?
No, so his comment about that in that moment was a reflection on him not having taken many notes in Campaign 2. And so much of the backstory in Campaign 2 was tied to all of that.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but I think it also has to do with he may still be just taking what would stick, what doesn't stick. Because he's also stated that the reason he doesn't like taking notes is because he doesn't like his characters remembering things he doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think, and especially with the fact that he's like, sometimes I meet people, so, a lot of people know him. And like the Shadow Beggar was like, he's like, what are you doing here? I'm selling my wares like I always do here.
I don't think it's memory for that.
Okay.
I think that is one of the ways in which Taliesin is expressing his low charisma. He doesn't give a shit enough about anyone to have them make an impression.
Okay.
And that's why he gets back to the friend label and how he has, he has a problem with that and distrusts that. And that implies a level of trust that I don't think is possible. That's what I think that's where that's from.
I can see that.
Yeah, Rose.
Oh, yeah.
And again, I think that's why he's taking more notes this time, is because he can be the source of a lot of exposition.
Yeah.
For the players and us.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think he really wants to not be wrong about something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why he's taking more notes this time.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah. Speaking of working with the DM, the most oft and arguably most important question the DM is going to get: what time is it? And Matt either made the city bigger or was kind of more wishy-washy about how long they were doing certain things. But yeah, not that it was unreasonable. It just seemed like, wow, that's a long time.
Yeah. Rose, remember, think he can't seem to remember his relationships, and he also doesn't seem to remember what he owes people. He's like, how much do I give them? And then a couple of times they were like, oh, this seems like really generous. All right.
Well, in those cases, I think it's when they were like, this is generous. They weren't, there's no stated amount.
Yeah.
It's just he has been a benefit of their charity. And so he is in turn giving them charity when he has the means. And I think that's the kind of debt that he's repaying in that sense.
Possibly.
So, which may mean that the debt that he's worried about someone collecting is not a monetary debt.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting take. Because we've assumed it's monetary because he's obsessed with earning money. But it could also be that he has a desire for drink and...
Yeah, I mean, he's obsessed with earning money, but he also seems to be very cavalier about just blowing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not the money he's after.
Yeah. I loved his, what are the chances we stumble into 2 situations today? Laudna, pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Which goes hand in hand with later. What's not dangerous? And Imogen saying, probably shopping at the Trove.
Yeah, I'm sure Travis was glad he wasn't on there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you know, I did not make it past the break. I think I passed out just as they were going to break.
Gotcha.
And then I woke up a couple times during the combat and was like, what the hell's going on? Oh, shit. Oh, I'm going to have to watch this tomorrow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a moment where I was like, Travis is probably glad that he's not at the table today.
Yeah. Question about that. Here's a thought I had. Travis may not be back till next year. What if he's doing CEO stuff and wrapping up stuff, getting ready for the launch of the show? And they're giving him time to do that.
No, I think he's back next episode. Because I think Esteros told him, I'm setting up that meeting.
Yeah.
And that's who Travis is. Like, once it became clear that fighting wasn't going to happen and Travis wasn't waiting in the wings to defuse the situation to save their asses, I was like, okay, no, he's definitely who Orm's looking for. And that's going to be where he comes in. And yes, the tanks getting the sending stones was a good idea. Possibly. Orem is a good scout, so giving it to him, like I buy that was an important thing. I think we will see the Taliesin Sending Stone will be given to probably Imogen.
Yeah, I can see that.
Just because she has probably the better ability to communicate with people, especially quietly, than anyone else. So, and if Travis does have any scouting ability, his character does, any rogue flavor, he'll probably get the Sending Stone that Orem has.
Okay, I can see that.
Sending Stones are less useful if your party isn't separating and isn't separating over long distances, because they're most useful over long distances.
Yes.
So, they overpaid for the healing potions, but arguably underpaid for the Sending Stones.
Yeah.
Advic. So the impression that I got from him is his sales pitch was like going to any recipe page online. You get 8 paragraphs about how this person found the recipe or learned the recipe or their personal experience with it. I'm like, give me the fucking ingredients!
Yeah.
It's like, dude, just tell me what you got. I don't need to know how you won it in a card game or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of get the sleazy salesman vibe off of him.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, no, that's a bit harsh. Because I almost was going to say Matilda's dad. Because I was thinking used car salesman. For some reason, that's the first one that popped into my head. But it doesn't seem that he sells junk like that.
No.
So, yeah, and they, like I said, they overpaid for those healing potions.
Yeah.
But he also knows the game, so he's setting his price high. He knows they're going to try to negotiate him down, and he probably already agreed to that woman's commission, which talk about making good money.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure her bags are not made by her or any member of her family. I'm pretty sure they're all stolen.
Okay.
And Imogen should have checked to see that the strings on the purse were still there. Because 5 copper is way too little.
Yeah.
For that. Depending on how it was made. But working leather, sewing it, takes a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And yeah. Snoopy, yeah, he might know about it just because he's well traveled. Well, we don't know that Advic has money. I mean, he has the player's money. Remember, he didn't buy those healing potions. He won them in a card game. And he didn't disclose how he got the Sending Stones.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, That's the thing about buying and selling magic items. It doesn't always require money to buy them.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
yeah.
you could have just ruthlessly murdered the possessor of said item. I mean, that's what PCs do.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how they get the majority of their magic items.
Yep. Also, Dorian passed up, are these legit? For are these stolen or marked in any way?
Yeah.
Which I don't quite understand why. Like, if you're asking that, you're assuming they're stolen. So assume that they are stolen. Is that going to preclude you from buying them?
Yes, Rose, that's
So-
exactly what he does.
But one of the things that sort of upset me in this section, and also later,
Okay.
they kind of gave Ashley shit for when she asked to inspect it, that she popped it off and did this. And they sort of gave her shit for it. But like rules is written, that's how you identify potions.
Yeah.
And I was a little upset and sad for her that she got that much crap about it. And also, I'm pretty sure, druids get herbalism kit, don't they? I think they do.
I think they do.
Which means technically she should have had advantage on that check, that skill check,
Yeah.
because she's proficient in the tool that makes the item.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was a little salty for her in that moment. But I loved Sam when they're like, okay, 650 split. And Sam's like, I'm glad I don't have to deal with that shit anymore. Oh, it's so funny. And a little bit of Laura leaking through when they're talking about shares and how much money Ashton's putting in. Well, is that for you and Fresh Cut Grass's money? He said, it's our money.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't need to know how much it is or how much we have. It was a fun little thing there for me. The inventory from EXU question comes up. Twice. And in the first instance, when Robbie's asking about healing potions that he had in EXU,
Yep.
Matt says, you've used 2 of them since then, you can have 1. And then later, Ashley's like, our inventory from EXU, he's like, I'm not going to take anything that Bria gave you. It's like, well, except for 2 healing potions.
Right.
Which, arguably, that he either took them or he gave them to Opal and Dariax. Because I could totally buy that.
Yeah.
As parting gifts, here, you guys each get 1.
Yeah. I mean, arguably, it's a consumable. And depending on the amount of time between the end of EXU and the beginning of Campaign 3, whether it was
they could have,
a week, 6 months,
Yeah.
They could very easily have used 2 healing potions.
Yeah, that's fair. But I like in my brain, my headcanon, without specifying anything, it's that Dorian gave the 2 to Opal and Dariax.
And I am 100% okay with that. That totally works,
Yeah.
Especially considering that Dariax stayed with Opal because she's still got that vestige stuck in her head.
Yeah.
Hey, if shit comes up because of this, a little added protection.
Yeah. Which I did have a moment when she's talking about Stonky's ring, and Laura's like, "What does that do?" Oh, let me tell you. Which, for half a second, there was a bit of Jorg Sprague there. Yeah. Let me show you its features.
Yes. Excuse me.
But yeah. So, but I was like, what would Matt have done if Fern had been the one to get the vestige?
Yeah.
Like, how bad would that have?
If Fern had ended up putting it on, well,
yeah. Or would that have ruined anything? Things we'll never know. Dorian having his, would you call that a panic attack? Social anxiety attack? I don't know. When he starts freaking out, I don't think it was a
full-blown panic attack. Anxiety I can buy, but not full-blown. I don't think it hit full-blown panic. It was like,
yeah, that's fair.
Tropical storm versus hurricane.
Fair. But Imogen getting in his head, Dorian, calm down. Or calm down, Dorian. And then he's like, I find myself contented.
Yes.
And I was like, ship moment number 1.
Oh, that. Well, I mean, technically, ship moment number 1 is the clue scene where she picks him and she's like, "Oh yeah, sorry, we were being too loud." He's like, "Yeah, no."
Well, I mean, this episode.
Yeah, for this episode, yes.
Because ship moment number 2 in this episode was in the same scene, and Laudna and Ashton staring at each other, Taliesin and Marisha. And
that's the ship I really want to have. But, you've also got, if we're going through the 5 episodes, you've also got the moment when Dorian's using levitate and going up holding Laudna.
Yeah.
And they're both, this is fine.
The unintentional ship moment was when they were trying to test the sending stones.
Yes.
And Laudna says, just diddle the stone and think of, or finger the stone and think of Dorian.
Yeah.
And Orm's like, I'm just gonna walk.
Yes. Yeah, it's almost like they're playing a party of bards. Everyone's just into everyone.
Yeah. We get them casing Duggar's house. They seem to be better at it, or at least they're not being chuckle fucks about it.
Yeah.
And then comes the breaking and entering.
Yep.
And I was trying to decide whether to say they're getting better at it or not.
Practice makes perfect.
Yes, true. Very true. At least they have someone who's proficient with the thieves' tools on the lock.
Yes.
They like, and then, like, so this is one of the reasons why Fern sort of gets my MVP this episode.
Okay.
Is, yes, I believe the myth is that a rat can fit through something the size of a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the circumference, not the depth.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh no. And then she used a wild shape to try to do it. It was hilarious. It was great. And it kind of saved her and got them preliminary intel
Mm-hmm.
in the end, so it wasn't totally wasted.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was really pleased with case it, test it. We don't think he's home. Break in.
Yeah.
And avoid the cops. Like, that took, I think, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
So I was very happy for them that it didn't take 90. Yeah, Rose, and I made that point on Twitter. Someone was commenting about how Keyleth turning into using wild shape to turn into an elemental. It's got the big swole dog, and then Fern changing into a rat and getting stuck. And I was like, yeah, we met them at level 8. 2 levels later, Keyleth turning into elementals. It's not.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, Keyleth was doing all of this kind of nonsense too.
In the home game, yeah.
Yeah. Although I think wild shape and Pathfinder is a little different.
Yeah.
So not exactly the same, but basically the same.
Yeah.
Matt got wild shape wrong. My mouth hit the floor. Couldn't believe it. And what made it worse for me, Ashley got it right. Ashley was correct that it took her bonus action to drop it. And she doubted herself because Matt was wrong. And that moment combined with earlier her properly using the proper method to test a potion and getting shit for it, I was like, oh, I just felt so bad for Ashley.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of the time, because she's gone so much, she hasn't picked up as many of the rules the way the others have. And I felt so good for her getting so much right and then doubting that she was right. But yeah. Big brain on Sam for command.
Yeah, I love that.
Alphabetize. Yeah. Also, what do you mean, what was what? When, his alphabetize. An interesting way, like the whole 1-2 of that combo of making him he can choose to move, he can choose to act, or he can use a bonus action, but only one of those. You can't take reactions. And then Sam, you're wasting your action.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, he would have taken his attack action and just everybody around him.
Yep.
So, yeah. So good.
I love the description of his entrance, though. Duggar.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was thinking Senator Kelly.
Yes. Very much Senator Kelly vibes.
In X-Men. Yeah. Robbie's caltrops. I love the use of mundane items.
Yep.
Looking at your inventory, and I choose you. You're the solution to this problem.
Yep.
I feel kind of sad for Robbie.
Okay.
That he didn't get to roll damage. And Matt discarded the effects of caltrops. Because I think they lower your speed by 10 feet or something until you spend an action to remove them.
Yeah. Well, he also didn't roll a save for them either.
Correct.
So
I think it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Because I think he was probably inflicting more damage on them.
Yeah.
Than the D4.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just felt bad for Robbie because as a player, this is my thing. I did this. I would like to roll damage.
Okay, I can see that.
Is the only reason I say that. But I also can understand why Matt rolled damage behind the screen because he's having it do something different.
Yeah.
Than what's listed. But yeah. The gum trap analogy, which was misheard, cum trap.
Yep.
And I was like, thirst trap? What? Great having Dorian get the killing blow.
Yes, that was awesome.
I think of everybody in the party, he was the most angered by Bertrand's death because I think he saw a lot of himself in Bertrand.
Yeah, I can see that.
Just the bravado and like I think there's a world in which Dorian looks at Bertrand and goes, "That could be me in 50 years."
Okay. I mean, I can see that. You know, I always think it is like I liked it because he was the one who was beating himself up over. I shouldn't have left him. I shouldn't have. Yeah. I got to be the one to avenge him.
There's that too. Yeah, that part of it too. I loved Tank Talk. Ashton, well, someone's gonna do it. Bang! Kills him. You alright? Yeah.
Yeah.
Typical Tank Talk. When you've got two tanks in the party.
Yep.
Especially when one of them is the barbarian that usually is used to resisting damage. Matt letting Liam take second wind after he already ended his turn. Not a huge deal, I don't think.
No. I think if it's early enough to the turn and it doesn't affect anything that's happened since, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Not that big a deal.
Yeah.
And I know he played EXU with Orem, but especially when you're getting to know your new character and familiarizing yourself with
and especially if you're not going through the checklist every turn.
Yeah.
If you're not, I moved with my action. Do I have a bonus action I want to use?
I did that a couple of times the last Sunday that we played because I failed a couple of savings throws that I could have used Divine Favor on. And because I just got that ability, but I forgot about it. And by the time I remembered, I was like, oh, it's way too late.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to ask to go back.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Because I could add a 2d4 to it and have it, at least on one of them, I'm pretty sure would have likely gotten me to success because I think that was one I was pretty close on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like,
Yeah. Laudna's flipped this house.
Yeah.
Was great.
Yeah, nice place to live.
And really, again, foreshadowing for when they find whoever's bringing in the broomstone and building their own airship. I mean, kill the guy that killed your friend, take over his house. Step 2, kill the people he's working with and steal their airship.
And, you know, they've already kind of set up the base lie for that because they already told the neighbor they were renting the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Snoopy. Yeah. Where he was going in the Smolder Spire is definitely where they need to follow up next.
Yeah.
If they're going to follow it up at all. Which they may not, because in the sense of, like, Esteros, they finished that. They got revenge justice for Bertrand. Like, the fact that someone's bringing in Broomstone doesn't affect them at all.
Valid point. The only way they're going after it is if O'Shard and whoever he's with was looking into it.
Or the Corsairs come to them.
Yeah. But the Corsairs felt like they didn't want anything to do with that.
They didn't want anything to do with bringing it in, and they didn't know that anyone was doing it. Now that they know that it's happening, they probably want to know who's doing it and why.
Possibly.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Rose, next episode is definitely them looking for Travis, because that's who Orm is seeking.
Yes. The longer this goes on, the more I'm sure you're right, but I still don't want it to be right, because in my brain, that means we need to go back. We need to leave this area. Because 3 members of the party are done. They're supposed to find this guy and get him back to Keyleth, from what I understand.
No, I think they're here looking for information. Because of similar events to what happened in Whitestone are happening elsewhere. And that's what this guy is about.
If it's about information, they would have been given a sending stone to get in contact with Keyleth. Because why do you wait weeks, months to get back to Zephyra with the information when you can give them a sending stone?
Yeah, but I don't think they leave right away. I mean, you're not wrong, but I don't think they leave. I think they're here. I think they're in the city until 5th level.
So there's...
And I put that another 6 episodes away, maybe.
There's a few... that could be Rose. There's a few possibilities. He's O'Shard Bashario, and they have to go back. He's O'Shard, and O'Shard needs to get vengeance for whatever, so they help him with that. 3, and this is, I read this from several people on the internet, they think Robbie is just an extended guest star because he's still listed as guest starring on things. I don't think that's it. I think it's, if you remember, like, back in the day on a TV show, it would say with special guest so-and-so, and they'd be there, like, for 2.5 seasons, every episode, and then all of a sudden they'd become a cast member.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. He's just the special guest until X number of episodes, and then he can be considered a full cast member.
Well, we also don't know how their corporate paperwork is detailed. And it may be that cast member and partner are synonymous.
That's true. It could be. Regardless, if he is just a special guest and not a permanent fixture, it could be Travis is of the house Luna that O'Shard was bodyguarding. They find O'Shard, he says, "Hey, watch after this guy." O'Shar goes back to Zephyra with Dorian, and Dorian's arc is just so they find O'Shar.
Possible. It would be kind of sad.
It would be sad. I want Robbie to stick around.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I want him to, like, there's just something about him, Travis being O'Shar, that
if
is
they
weird
are,
to me. You know what I mean?
If they are going to do guest stars for each arc again, each arc tends to be 10 to 15 episodes. And my guess of them leaving Drusar at 5th level would put that at about the 12 episode mark. So I think Drusar is arc 1.
Okay.
And if you're right and Robbie leaves, then we have a new guest star that they will meet after they leave Drusar. But yeah, it's definitely possible.
Yeah,
that
it's
because a lot of TV shows that do that, often it's budgetary.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the money to bring on a new cast member, and it's cheaper to pay guest stars.
Yeah.
So they'll just keep, and a lot of actors are happy to have the regular gig, so they don't fight it. And also, being a guest star means you can still shop yourself around, and still try to
that could be what's happening.
Yeah. On a personal note, I was saddened at their reaction to Fern picking up the chamber pot and wanting to cook stuff in it. Because I have a magic item called a prestidigitation pot. And one of the things that I laugh about it is you can use it as a chamber pot and also to heat and flavor your food.
Yeah. Rose, my pick for MVP, that was a hard one for me. There wasn't... There wasn't really anyone who pushed the story forward, per se, more than anyone else. I think for me it came to between Ashton, just being the professional of the group.
Yeah.
So I think he gets it. The other runner-up would have been Fern, just because she's been... It's nice to see Ashley with such an active presence and not a background PC.
That's fair.
Which, partly
Sometimes
because she was gone so much, but she tended to be in campaign 1 and 2. She's a more outgoing character in this campaign.
Yeah. Last few minutes, you want to talk? Let's talk about the level up. And before we do that, I sort of want to talk about the other thing that was kind of sad. Matt, when Ashton rolled his 12 and ended up with 52 total hit points, and Matt saying there are more ways than damage to take you out.
Right.
The whole campaign with Grog. And it's like, Ashley's sitting right there, man.
Yeah, but she wasn't there the whole campaign. She skipped like a third of it because of blind spot.
Yeah, but it's like, Yasha, am I a joke to you? The one that always getting mind controlled? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the mind control, you're a little more susceptible to that when it's plot device to explain your absences from the table, though.
Fair.
Level 4.
ASI for most of them.
Ladna surprised me, taking that second level in Sorcerer.
Oh, not me. She's rushing for that 3rd level.
For Distant?
Well...
Because if she goes Distant Spell and gets Eldritch Spear...
Yeah, and she's a spell sniper.
And she's the Dorolo if she's a Tarolo, you know, it's the
Yeah.
arcane version of bad news.
Yeah, that's yeah.
That's why I think she's going for it.
I'm thinking she's rushing for the 3rd level of Shadow Sorcerer because she already wants the ability to use cast darkness.
And see, I was sure she was going to go 3rd level and go Pact of the Chain and make Pate her undead familiar. Because just like the weapon in the book, it appears like your patron, so undead would not be out of the question for an undead warlock.
Yeah, I think that's still probably going to happen, but I think that's...
Yeah. No, I agree, but I just, you know...
I think she'll do the 3rd
level. And by the way, she started out as a sorcerer, got killed or whatever before and then got the Pact, which is how she came back and she's been moving forward in that. So I was kind of like, yeah, it'll be 3rd level warlock. She'll go Pact of the Chain. Pate will be off his leash, so to speak.
And I don't think that happens until level 6.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. 3rd level sorcerer, get the meta magic, then jump back to warlock. Yeah. So for what they're going to do for their 4th level, we had a YouTube comment that said Mr. could be familiar because druids get that. And if he's gonna start being inconsistent like that, an inconsistent appearance, yes, that's how they'll explain it. However, that uses a use of her wild shape to do.
Which she has to use to invoke him as a fire spirit.
Also, yeah. So she could invoke him as just a monkey, or she can invoke him as a fire spirit.
Yeah.
And the familiar doesn't stay forever. It goes after the hours that way.
Yeah.
So a couple ideas. She could go Fey Touched, play up the Fey.
Yeah.
She could go Magic Initiate, find familiar, and then
Firebolt, which is a better
Firebolt and control flames.
Yeah.
And if Mister's going to start becoming more frequent, like he was in EXU, that's how they're going to explain it.
And she doesn't want to risk having him die.
Yeah.
That's the immortal pet.
Yeah. And and then the fire spirit turning him into is just transforming your familiar into a fire spirit rather than creating a brand new one.
Yeah.
So that's my personal opinion. Could be something else.
Yeah.
Orem, I think he's going to do +2 dex.
Yeah.
Because that's going to put him at that 20, and him and Laura both like to hit that 20 as quick as possible.
Yeah.
The other option would be if he just delves into this Battle Master thing and takes the Martial Adept feat to get more maneuvers.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to go for the +2 dex.
I think so too.
Cap out that. Because that's going to cap.
Snoopy, he cannot do Paladin. He does not have the strength or the charisma.
Yep.
He would have to invest 3 ASIs in those 2 stats to become a Paladin. And so I don't think that's going to happen. And Matt was willing to handwave a +1 strength to Ford, but he's not going to wave a total of +3, I think, 3 or 4 attribute points. He's not going to do that.
No, I think Orm's going to be mostly fighter.
Yeah.
All the way through.
Maybe he might dip rogue.
He might dip rogue.
Because dipping rogue would do crazy things for him.
Yeah.
Because he can move through people's spaces.
Especially if he hits that second level, gets the cunning action, comes back to fighter.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah. Cunning action, expertise.
Sneak attack.
Yeah.
And his superiority dice. He can just be throwing a bunch of dice at people.
For Dorian, I'm not sure. +2 charisma? Bump him to an 18?
So this depends on how...
He could also go +1 strength, +1 con because he's a melee bard. Up that damage, up that bonus to hit, up the hit points.
Also, he can take dual wielder
Yeah.
And now he's not buried to the scimitar and hand axe. Now he can do rapier, or battle axe.
Yeah.
You know, he has
or even
options.
just keep those weapons, but get the benefits.
Yeah.
Fresh cut grass is either going to go +2 wisdom, or if he's a healer to troll Laura, he's going to get the healer feat.
I can see that. Well, and the healer feat also feeds more into the non-deity that he's leaning into.
Towards. Yeah. So, I mean, I'd like to see that. I love the healer feat.
Yeah. Underappreciated.
Yep. Imogen is going +2 charisma. She's going to get that 20.
Yeah.
Like I said, Laura and Liam both like to hit that 20 as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
That gives it to them in their main stat. Ashton, I think he's going to go +1 strength, +1 con. That bumps them both to 18, just like Dorian. They're both 17 on both of those stats.
Okay.
It's going to raise his AC. It's going to raise his hit points. It's going to raise his hit modifier, his damage.
He could take Tavern Brawler.
That was what I was just about to say. Or he's going to take Tavern Brawler.
Tavern Brawler fits in thematically with his backstory that we've seen so far. It fit, and it's a half feat, so he gets
the con bonus or strength.
Yep, so he'll get to the 18
on one of them. Yep.
The bonus action grapple.
Mm-hmm.
His unarmed strikes now do a D4 plus strength.
Yes.
So there's a lot of stuff in there that he could play into, and I think having Ashton, like him, just having the confidence of, oh, you want me to give up my hammer? Okay, here's my hammer.
Yeah.
Not going to help you, friend.
Yeah.
Would be great. Or he might even do Great Weapon Master.
Yes.
To get that -5 +10 and bonus action attack when you crit or reduce a creature to 0 hit points. And he has sort of a crit fishy build.
Yeah. I can see that.
So.
Scout Rogue, I don't think so, Snoopy. I don't think if he dips Rogue, he's gonna do the 2 levels and jump back.
I don't know. Scout Rogue would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, and it would fit his fighting style because you come at me and then I'm jump back, so I'm still free to maneuver. So I mean, if he does go more, yes, that's what we're talking about for Orem. If he does go more, he'll go Scout, but I don't know. I just don't think he's going to.
Yeah. Anyway, we're over and long on the episode, so we'll see Thursday what's going on, and we'll talk to you guys next Tuesday.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.